Support for WUWM podcast comes from Hop Harvest and Vine and Good Harvest Market in Pewaukee, part of One Destination, combining farm-to-table dining, local craft beers, and organic groceries under one roof. More at goodharvestmarket.com.
From 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR, this is Lake Effect. I'm Audrey Nowakowski. Today, we continue our housing series with a look at how Milwaukee neighborhood groups are helping people become homeowners. Then we head to the Rare Books room at Central Library to learn about one of their rarest items, a complete collection of Audubon prints.
It took from 1827 until 1838 to finish issuing this because it was like a subscription service. Instead of Netflix, you got just birds sent to your home every so often.
Plus, we'll tell you about the upcoming sturgeon spearing season in a new Wandering Wisconsin.
The Lake Winnebago and upriver system has one of the healthiest populations of lake sturgeon that you'll find anywhere in the world.
All that's coming up on Lake Effect. This is Lake Effect from 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. I'm Audrey Nowakowski. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll start today with the latest story in our series, Seeking Solutions: Keys to Homeownership. WUWM is examining systemic housing problems and solutions for more affordable housing. When it comes to the housing challenges in Milwaukee, a lot of it comes down to cost. People may want to buy, but simply can't afford to. Today, we're looking into community organizations that are creating their own paths to homeownership and hearing from people who've been waiting their whole lives for a home to call their own. WUWM's Jimmy Gutierrez brings us the story.
To kick off 2026, Melody McCurtis and the Metcalf Park Community Bridges team in Milwaukee had a surprise to share with Shirley Dunn.
You know, that house you've been checking on for us, making sure ain't no dumping happening and all that on 33rd?
I'm here to tell you. But the house is yours.
And that is Shirley, longtime Metcalf Park resident and longtime renter. She had just won the neighborhood's lease-to-own lottery.
This is not a rent. This is a rent-to-own. This house will be completely yours in 15 years.
Thank you.
Completely yours.
Oh, my God.
The Reclaim and Restore initiative works like this. Community Bridges buys a home from the city for cheap. This one, $1. They rehab and remodel it from the studs with local contractors, and they keep it all incredibly affordable.
The house is $105,000. Then we add on the cost of the insurance for the house and the taxes. I'm around it. It's $901 a month. $901 a month.
Yeah, $901. So in 15 years, this house will belong outright to Shirley Dunn. Last week, she and her family walked through the house together, and you could not wipe the smiles off their faces.
We tested the porch.
Going room to room, planning their future.
Yeah, that's like a sitting area. Like part of the living room, the dining room.
No, that's a den. This the living room.
The living room, but I'm saying like the den
Right.
area, like.
We're gonna put some bar stools up there.
This is Tyrone Dunn, Shirley's husband.
I like how they did the cabinets though. That's nice. Nice. I like that.
Shirley has been renting all of her adult life. She's 56 now. She says she's never been late on rent and is tired of making landlords rich. Same with Tyrone.
And plus, I've been around here ever since I've been 19. My mother stayed in the house for 33 years on 33rd between Center and Hatley. So I know how it is when you renting, and you just not getting nowhere. You know what I'm saying? So it feel good, and it's a blessing. I like to thank Metcalf for blessing me and my family with this home, and I'm going to take care of it.
In Metcalf Park, less than 30% of the homes are owner-occupied. Rent averages around $1,300 in the neighborhood. So trying to save for a down payment and then a mortgage, you'd be better off winning the lottery. But there are organizations like Metcalf Park Community Bridges bridging the homeownership gap one block at a time. This is the third home McCurtis and team has fixed up for the program.
As we go, the first two homes, we worked with two families for those first two homes. This homes, we really just put, an application out there for folks to apply, and it was a waterfall method. And
basically, you earn points on different metrics: how long you've lived in the neighborhood, are you a renter, do you own a home, things like this.
If Shirley was staying in that home for 20 years, if we add up how much rent is going into that home, like, you have the ability to own. So just wanting to create a pipeline and an opportunity that's not the traditional opportunity to really just be like, hey, let's reclaim these homes. Let's reclaim our neighborhood. Let's really invest in the people that make it what it is.
One of the reasons why programs like Reclaim and Restore are needed is because it's not easy to reclaim neighborhoods.
You know, we often talk about supply and demand, and don't get me wrong, there is a lack of supply and there's a lack of buying power from tenants. But there's also a power imbalance that's intertwined with those issues.
This is Kevin Solomon, senior organizer with Common Ground in Milwaukee. He's been working with tenants for years fighting this imbalance. To understand why people aren't buying, you need to know where they're getting stuck. And Kevin says corporate landlords are a big part of that problem.
Landlords are organized, have a trade association, have a super PAC, have a hired lobbyist, have agenda items in Madison that they lobby for, or in Milwaukee. Just think about that. There's this huge imbalance where tenants are divided and conquered. And yet we see this phenomenal rise in the number of tenants in Milwaukee.
In 2016, renters in Milwaukee numbered around 42%. That number today is over 60%, an almost 20% increase in a decade. And we have more out-of-state landlords than ever before. And as we've seen more people renting, they're also paying more, from around $900 a month to almost $1,400 in that same time. Less money for families, living in worse conditions, and an unfair playing field. This all impacts lease-to-own programs like Metcalf Park in a few ways.
One is, it's hard to compete against these big corporate landlords because they have money, resources, attorneys, and can quickly jump on and gobble up the market. You know, new properties come up, boom, they're purchased.
Solomon says these landlords have a tendency to buy up homes in bundles. Think 15 or more properties at a time, a portfolio, just poof, gone. Metcalf Park is working hard to buy just one at a time. Competing with that speed and scale just isn't possible. But it doesn't stop people from trying.
Home ownership, for many, is the driving factor to higher education rates, higher employment, to generational wealth.
This is Joanna Bausch, executive director at VIA CDC, a neighborhood organization on Milwaukee's South Side. Like McCurtis and the folks in Metcalf Park, VIA has been buying and rehabbing homes with their turnkey program, something they've been at since 2008, right after the housing crisis.
Essentially, it was developed and created to purchase foreclosed and dilapidated properties, and then designed to use philanthropic and government funding to rehab those homes and then sell them back to income-qualified families, many of whom are first-time home buyers.
Bausch says at the end of 2023, they had fully rehabbed and sold 33 properties, almost exclusively single-family properties too, for an average around $130,000 per home. But that work today is more complicated than ever.
A number one barrier to the development of these properties is cost.
Tariffs have impacted VIA's ability to build, and contractors don't know what to expect either. Another issue is VIA, after almost 20 years of success, is now classified as a developer.
We're a community developer. We're not a for-profit developer. But there's no sort of category for us when it comes to buying properties from the city. You know, we are placed in the same box as some of these out-of-state investors.
What that means is they've been outbid for homes, they don't have a legal team fighting for properties, and they're only buying homes in Milwaukee, so a much older housing stock where rehabbing is more expensive. But even with those challenges, they're not slowing down. Bausch has transitioned into new home construction, but says the turnkey program has bought and rehabbed homes all over the city in the past, including Metcalf Park working with community bridges. Community groups working together to figure out how to keep community members in their homes, in their neighborhoods.
I would be willing to bet our neighbors in the near north side, if you ask them about housing, they want the same thing our south side neighbors want: access to safe, healthy, affordable housing. That's what they want, that's what they need, and that's what they deserve.
I'm a DJ, so, I'm a DJ.
Back on North 33rd Street, Tyrone and Shirley Dunn are standing in a back bedroom of their new home. planning.
Woman cave. I'm gonna have a woman cave. My computer. I run bingo games. Hey, we're gonna be playing bingo.
I'm a shopaholic. So one bedroom gonna be with all my clothes in it. So
They already filled up. Them bedrooms already filled up.
Neighborhood initiatives like Metcalf's Reclaim and Restore and Via's Turnkey highlight something. They show a different path to homeownership, one that's affordable, one that keeps people in the neighborhoods they've long lived, doing so with dignity. But for every Shirley and Tyrone, there are thousands of people in the city struggling with rent, corporate landlords, and with no lottery to save the day. But a home, Joanna Bosch says, changes everything. Shirley said she never dreamed this day would come, and that this is something everyone deserves to experience.
I got some adult kids. If they need a place to stay, hey, they can always come here.
How do you feel about this view from your porch?
Oh my God. Hey neighbors. I love it.
That story was produced by WUWM's Jimmy Gutierrez. He spoke with Metcalf Park homeowners Shirley and Tyrone Dunn, Metcalf Park Community Bridges Deputy Director Melody McCurtis, VIA CDC's Executive Director Joanna Bosch, and Common Ground's Kevin Solomon. That report was part of our series Seeking Solutions Keys to Homeownership. Support for the series comes from presenting sponsor Educators Credit Union. You can find all of our coverage at wuwm.com/housing. In about 20 minutes, we'll help you plan a trip to the Sturgeon Spectacular in Fond du Lac. It's a festival that kicks off the start of the sturgeon spearing season with some activities that might surprise you.
I think if you have an opportunity to kiss a sturgeon during opening weekend of sturgeon spearing, you have to do it. The people swear that it will bring you a year of good luck.
But first, we're combining birding and the library for both of our monthly series Chirp Chat and Books and Beyond. Stay tuned to Lake Effect on 89.7 to find out more. You're listening to Lake Effect on Milwaukee's NPR. I'm Audrey Nowakowski. Looking for a hobby to try out this new year? Well, how about giving birding a try? Milwaukee Public Library recently added birding backpacks to its catalog of things that you can check out. The backpacks come with all the essentials you need to enjoy and learn about birds, like binoculars and field guides. The BIPOC Birding Club of Wisconsin donated the birding backpacks to all 13 Milwaukee Public Library branches. Kelly Bolter and Beth Hennica are with the Milwaukee Public Library. They both joined Lake Effect's Excret Nunez for this month's Chirp Chat.
For this episode of Chirp Chat, I wanted to focus on birding resources that are free and available to Milwaukee residents. And, one of those include birding backpacks. Kelly, I was wondering, what is a birding backpack and how did this idea even come about?
So a birding backpack is essentially a go bag that has everything that you need in it to go birding. So way back in 2022, the BIPOC Birding Club of Wisconsin reached out to me. Rita, who is the Milwaukee chapter chair, gave me a phone call and asked if the library would be interested in hosting the backpacks and circulating them around the library system. It was an immediate yes for me. My reaction was, this is a great resource. It's really in line with libraries having what we call the library of things. So the library is not just books, but we're also tools and resources to equip and empower people to pursue interests like birding. So, I told Rita we would definitely be interested. And then we actually weren't in communication for some time. Rita said that they were sourcing items for the backpacks from donations. So the vision was to have one for each library location. And Milwaukee Public Library has 13 locations all across the city. So it took a while to source everything. And then in summer of 2025, Rita shared the great news that the backpacks were ready. Then I handed it over to Beth to handle the technical services portion of getting them in our collection and ready for everyone to check out in our communities.
So this is really a great new resource to the library. And for our listeners, the BIPOC Birding Club is a group that aims to create a safe space for people of color, like you mentioned, Kelly, to enjoy birding and the outdoors. So I'm wondering, you kind of touched on this, by partnering with the library, what does this project aim to do?
This project aims to reach people who have traditionally been marginalized from birding. I know the BIPOC Birding Club, like you said, really aims to make this an accessible pursuit, and that aligns perfectly with the library's goal of welcoming everyone in our spaces, equipping everyone with the tools that they need to succeed. It also enhances awareness of the natural spaces around us. I think it is such a beneficial practice to, just slow down and think about, what bird is this? Is it a migratory bird? How are we maintaining our spaces to support these very important players in our ecosystem, because everything is connected and we're connected, and it's just a really beautiful way to take a moment and slow down and internalize that.
Absolutely. And when I think about this project, I think of how it also eliminates this cost barrier to this activity or hobby. So I would love to do a bit of an unboxing, or rather an unbackpacking, of all the items that come inside the birding bag. And so, Beth, let's see if we can unzip the backpack that we have here.
Yeah, the Birding Club very appropriately gave us Osprey backpacks for all of them. So some that you'll see are black backpacks, and some are like a teal bluish color backpack.
Cute.
Just depends on what location you go to. There is a description of all of the items listed in the kit. Again, so if you forget what it comes with, or you're just curious what's in there, and also specific parks you can go to in your area, including which birds you might see at those locations.
That's super resourceful.
Yes,
love that.
Really helpful. From there, we have a book, The Field Guide to Birds of North America, that helps with identification of birds. That is in every backpack. And then there are 2 sets of binoculars, so you can check out one kit and go out in pairs.
And everything seems so new.
Yes, everything is brand new. And then the last thing is bird guides for kids, one in English and one in Spanish. And these cover southern Wisconsin and the Madison, Milwaukee area as well.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm Lake Effect's Excret Nunez, speaking with Kelly Bolter and Beth Hennecke from the Milwaukee Public Library about birding backpacks. So, Beth, we just went through all the items in a birding backpack. What library branches can people check these bags out at?
These bags are available at all 13 Milwaukee public libraries. If you go in and the backpack at your specific location is checked out, you can place holds on them, and we will deliver them to any library in Milwaukee County.
And when someone checks it out, how long can they check it out for?
These kits go out for 3 weeks.
Wow. Okay, they can definitely get the hobby under the belt. But Kelly, I know you're new to birding. Tell me what you've enjoyed about birding, or do you have any tips for interested birders?
Yeah, I have to say my favorite place to bird has been my backyard. I say that because my husband and I do a lot of gardening in the backyard as well, and the birds have become part of that ecosystem. We put up several birdhouses last summer, and we've been able to see multiple generations of sparrows and house finches, and we can watch them eat little things in our environment, and it's one of the most wonderful things to observe, over the seasons. I'm really looking forward to it right now because it's winter, but I think just observing what's around me wherever I am has been the best part of that.
Yeah, and appreciating it. I love that. Well, Kelly and Beth, we've reached the end of Chirp Chat. But before we wrap up, I always love to ask guests to shine a spotlight on a bird for the month. So I was wondering, Kelly, can I start with you and ask you, what's a bird you like to highlight?
Sure. I'm going to go back to house finches just because, they're not flashy, but they are numerous, and they're such a sign of spring and summer, and it just makes me feel good when I know they're around, and the weather's wonderful, and so I love them.
Yeah, I don't think anyone said house finch before, so I love that answer. Beth, what about you? What's a bird you like to highlight?
So already recognizing I'm not a birder, but I do like looking for the raptors that are sitting on freeway signs, and I think one of them might be the red-tailed hawk, and I think that goes back to doing a lot of library programming with the local Audubon centers and having those birds come in and then being able to recognize, oh, that bird is hunting. And yeah, that's something I've really enjoyed doing with my kids.
You are most definitely a birder, Beth. It's something that you're noticing and appreciating, so I think definitely you are a birder.
Thank you.
Well, Kelly and Beth, thank you both so much for telling me more about the library's birding backpacks. I'm really excited for people to check them out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kelly Bolter is the Adult Programming Coordinator at the Milwaukee Public Library. Beth Hennica is the Acquisitions, Serials, and Interlibrary Loan Manager at Milwaukee Public Library. They both joined Lake Effect's Excrit Nunez. To keep the birding and library theme going, I also recently visited the Milwaukee Public Library for this month's Books and Beyond. If you're not quite ready to brave the cold to go birding, there are hundreds of birds you can see in Central Library's Rare Books room, which has a complete collection of Audubon prints. This collection showcases 435 life-size hand-colored species of birds with incredible detail. It merged 19th century art and science and are considered foundational to American conservation. MPL's collection of Audubon prints is one of about 120 full sets in the world today. To learn more, I spoke with Rare Books librarian Timothy Rush, who explains how the library came to get their complete set.
So our set has a really storied history. It was donated to the city of Milwaukee in 1945 by the Schlitz Brewing Company. They purchased a copy from the Ware Gallery of New York City. This collection had actually been sold off from Yale. Yale had an extra set, which is a wild thing to be able to say, that they actually had like 3 sets at one time of what is a item that only has like 120 some full sets in the world today. And that set was owned by old naturalist George Bird Grinnell. He was a conservationist, one of the founding members of the Audubon Society, and he donated it to his alma mater, Yale, and eventually Yale had too many, and so they then sold that off, and we, as Schlitz, ended up purchasing that for the city of Milwaukee. And the original idea behind the set was that it would be donated to the city, not specifically the library, but that it would be framed and sent out to all of the schools to encourage the young people of Milwaukee to become conservationists, to be inspired by nature and be encouraged to do things with it. And it did that for a very long time.
So you mentioned how rare it is to have a complete set. Can we break down the numbers? How many images are in a set, and when was it originally published?
Mm-hmm. So the Audubon's Birds of America is 435 different plates. While you typically see it nowadays in big bound volumes, how it was issued was in smaller sets of individual plates that were unbound. The set that we have is the original oversized format, which is known as the double elephant folio, which like the plates were 29.5 inches by 39.5 inches, which is massive, as you saw as we were going through it today. And there are 435 different plates with even more birds, because some of these plates do have multiple types of birds placed on them, and it is gorgeous. It took from 1827 until 1838 to finish issuing this, because it was like a subscription service. Instead of Netflix, you got just birds sent to your home every so often. Obviously, for the affluent, this was not something for folks who were, working in the coal mines, but it is a gorgeous thing, and it is massive. It was a massive undertaking.
Yeah, so let's get into this undertaking and who led it. So we're mentioning Audubon. His full name was John James Audubon. Why was he so passionate about capturing birds in this way, and how did he execute this massive endeavor?
So Mr. Audubon is an interesting figure. He has this massive love of the natural world, He does not just cover birds in his work. We also happen to have a set of his quadrupeds of North America, which is also small mammals. But he endeavored to try and capture with a greater eye to like scientific detail these wonders of nature. And so each of these prints actually reproduces these birds at life size and at the finest of details. He painted them, and then they were inscribed onto big engraved plates that would then be colored by a team of artisans in London. And it really was just a massive undertaking. He not only was producing these from dead specimens, because he takes this way to like create scenes from the dead specimens so that you can see how they are supposed to be in nature, but they're sometimes a little off. But also by observing nature, he would go on expeditions to different parts of North America to witness these birds in the wild. So it was really a big undertaking that spans, over like a decade of time and a massive amount of expenditure on his part.
So you talk about just the scale of it, the life size, the detail. I imagine this set the bar for ornithological illustration. So no doubt these prints are still beautiful to look at. How does the science hold up?
So that's the interesting thing. Audubon is continued to be held up as this like pioneer of artistic rendering and a pioneer in this form of highly detailed naturalistic art. Some of his scientific work does not hold up as well over time. There are lots of instances where you run into birds that are probably misidentified or perhaps were just never existed in the way that he has shown them. One of the plates that we looked at today, the carbonated warbler, is one of his known mysteries. So as anything that has existed for now almost 200 years, people have studied these deeply, and there are these birds that he painted that you just go, but why don't we find that now? And while some of the birds obviously went extinct over time, the breadth of scientific analysis has gone, well, this doesn't seem to have ever existed like this. So what was he looking at? And the best part about that is it kind of gets like into this weird Bigfoot situation where no one can actually say for sure what he was doing, but instead they are, doing their best to interpret, well, maybe he was doing this. And, so the veracity of all of his scientific work is not as upheld over time.
And I also want to kind of stem this as to not being as upheld is also him as a person, right? It's 200 plus years later, a lot of people, historical figures, many other subjects within the library itself. We learn more about people and course correct as we go on. So let's talk about Audubon as a person. And as you mentioned, people couldn't collect these without means. He was also with means and was a slaveholder, held white supremacist views. And for a long time, perhaps this aspect of Audubon was not an automatic discussion point, and it's mostly about the art always. And more people, I feel, are starting to learn about this aspect of him as a person, right?
As time goes on, we have this sort of duty to reevaluate these figures that we uphold. One of the tricky situations, especially with folks like Audubon, is where you draw the line as to remembering and recognizing folks' roles as pioneers and as influential figures, and the line between that and memorializing them in an upheld, sort of deified sort of way. It is important to look at historical figures as people, and people are messy. And John James Audubon can be two things at once. He can be one of the most beautiful artisans of creating these images of birds, as well as a man who wrote about experiences with runaway slaves where he props himself up as the hero for having returned them to slavery, because he instead got them to be bought back by a kinder master than the one that had been abusing them, which is one of his own actual written accounts of his expeditions. So he is a complicated figure, and he is not unique amongst our collection. There are many people in the rare books collection that are remembered for their achievements, and it is important that we also remember the darker marks that they have on their personal lives and their legacies.
So with this long-lasting collection, Audubon societies are still all across America. Some are renamed, a lot are kind of reconfiguring their goals as institutions, but with the prints themselves, why do you think these illustrations have stood the test of time and remain such a valuable thing, both monetary and just culturally?
That's a really good question. The thing that strikes me is usually I used to not really value it as part of our collection as much as other things. It is one of those things that we, of course, share with the world, that we have this, expensive, rare item, but it usually felt like something that wasn't specifically of Milwaukee to me. But now, having worked with it firsthand for several years now, you are always struck with how beautiful nature is and how these birds just seem lifelike on the page. The ability of Audubon to have created this imagery that truly evokes a sense of awe in you is remarkable. And he set the bar so high 200 years ago with how to render these imageries. But just not to say that no one has achieved greater since, but it is such a landmark that it is gorgeous to have and be able to share this. The original goal was sharing this beauty with the people of Milwaukee. I actually have a fun quote from Richard Krug, who is the man his name is above the door of the rare books room here. When we received the Audubons in 1945, he said, "The set has great monetary value because of its rarity. It has great scientific value because of the accuracy and care with which the artist recorded the natural history he loved in a way which imparts the greatest amount of information. Its high artistic value is self-evident." And that's why it has stood the test of time, is that it is just a remarkable achievement that is self-evident when you view it.
Timothy Rush is the Rare Books librarian at the Milwaukee Public Central Library. We talked about the Audubon collection in the Rare Books room for this month's Books and Beyond. And don't forget, you can request to see the collection for yourself through an appointment with the library. You can find out more information at wuwm.com. In about 15 minutes, we'll bring you a new Bubbler Talk that looks into a unique feature of the Plankington Building in downtown Milwaukee. But first, we'll tell you about Wisconsin's sturgeon spearing season and the events happening to kick it off in the Fond du Lac area. Keep listening to Lake Effect on WUWM. This is Lake Effect on Milwaukee's NPR. I'm Audrey Nowakowski. The Wisconsin sturgeon spearing season is coming up. Starting on February 14th, Lake Winnebago will be covered in ice shanties as family and friends gather for the season that's rich in history and tradition. Lake Winnebago and its upriver lakes are one of only 2 places where sturgeon can be caught using a spear. This draws lots of people to the area during the month of February, and the Sturgeon Spectacular will be there to welcome them. It's a weekend event in Fond du Lac that features a variety of winter activities for fishers and families alike. To learn about it, Lake Effect's Becky Mortensen is joined by Peter Wilkie with Fond du Lac Festivals and Amanda Weibel with Travel Wisconsin.
Only in Wisconsin is there a festival surrounding fishing. Peter, can you start by telling me why this short sturgeon spearing season warrants its own festival?
Well, I can speak for myself, and I think as a Wisconsinite, we're really proud of the quirks and the things that make us unique here in Wisconsin. We can be very proud of certain things that are only around the state of Wisconsin and where we're from. So I think we had a great opportunity to kind of showcase this unique thing, sturgeon spearing, and kind of show the world that we want to celebrate it.
So we're going to talk about the Sturgeon Spectacular Festival, but let's start with the people who are there to fish. This is an incredibly unique activity. The Lake Winnebago system is one of only 2 places that people are able to do spearfishing for sturgeon. So why is that?
Yeah, my understanding is it's all about conservation. The Lake Winnebago and upriver system has one of the healthiest populations of lake sturgeon that you'll find anywhere in the world. So the fact that Wisconsin DNR continues to kind of dictate quotas and make sure that everybody's going about the sport of sturgeon spearing the right way. The communication's great. Sturgeon spearers know exactly when they need to get their license by, what their quota is, what the guidelines are. There's a 15-page document if you go to Wisconsin DNR that you can read through and make sure you're up to speed on all of that.
So walk through what it's like to do this. How does a spearfisher get set up to catch the sturgeon, and what are the best conditions?
It really comes down to where you want to set up your shack. What are the ice conditions? And that's really important. What's nice is having a dark area so that you can see in the water and have some snow around your shack, because that allows it to be brighter in the water than it is in your shack. It's important to have the ability to see. The other thing is the amount of distance you can see down the water. So depending on what type of weather conditions we have leading up to the season, if there is a lot of melt and thaw, what happens is the water drains into Lake Winnebago and those upland rivers and makes it difficult because it muddies the water, stirs up the water, and makes it extremely difficult to see where these sturgeon are because they're bottom feeders. That's what another thing that makes them unique is they kind of hang out in the bottom of the lake.
Can you just describe what a sturgeon looks like? They're just a kind of a unique looking fish. Can you describe what they look like?
Yeah, and I would say they kind of look like a prehistoric fish. So kind of put together a dinosaur and a very large fish. The largest ones can get up to 8 feet almost in length, and close to 300 pounds. So truly a swimming dinosaur. It's got feelers and then a suction cup for a mouth. And they suck up shad and redworms off the bottom of the lake, and that's how they sustain. But they are a truly unique looking fish. They do look like a fish, but they have some interesting elements to them.
Yes, interesting elements is a good way to put it for sure. So what's the environment like out on Lake Winnebago? It sounds like there are a lot of traditions surrounding the sturgeon spearing season.
Yeah, there's thousands of people that go out on the lake. The groups that go out are very serious about how they do it, when they go, how long they prepare and get ready for the sturgeon spearing season. A lot of time is spent discussing with their shanty partners and figuring out where are we going to sit this year? Where are we going to have the best chance to spear that elusive sturgeon? So a lot of camaraderie that's built into this tradition, whether it be family or friends. I have a lot of family that do it. I have a lot of friends that have had luck and some not so much. But they love going out there each and every year, taking some time off of work and just dedicating a couple weeks to trying to find that sturgeon. What I always found fascinating was looking at the lake opening weekend. So that first day on that Saturday, once the season is open, just seeing how many makeshift shacks and shanties and people and vehicles are now going from around the lake and throughout the state of Wisconsin and traveling to Lake Winnebago and setting up shop, if you will.
All right. Now to the people who may or may not be there to fish, but who are definitely there to have a good time at the festival. What can people do at the Sturgeon Spectacular?
Oh, it is a family affair for sure. There's something for everybody. We turned downtown Fond du Lac into a winter wonderland with ice sculptures, snow sculptures, horse-drawn carriage rides. We have had an exciting event added as the outdoor curling fun spiel. People are fascinated by the sport of curling, so we created a temporary rink, and we have a tournament and where the main goal is fun. That's at the Fond du Lac Beer Company, a little plug for them. And then we have all kinds of activities, indoor and outdoor programming at Thelma Sadolf Center for the Arts, an Art of the Bloody Mary contest where we judge best tasting and most creative Bloody Marys in the area. And tons of things for kids and families to enjoy. And of course, our crown jewel, the Wisconsin State Snow Sculpting Championship, takes place opening weekend as well. So February 13th, 14th, and 15th, we have the most experienced snow sculptors in the state come to Fond du Lac and showcase their skills. We've had some that got really excited about the sport of sturgeon, so they've added some sturgeon elements. There was one that looked just like a scene out of Lake Winnebago. Some really cater to the kids. So they have some cartoon characters. We had Kelvin and Hobbes doing some sledding. One year we had a cartoon penguin. We had a book that was really, really cool with pages. It was just a giant 8-foot book and just really great, unique ideas that come to fruition.
Turning to you, Amanda, I imagine the Fond du Lac area sees a big influx of people during this time. So what are some other things people should check out if they're in the area, either for the spearfishing season or for the festival?
The Fond du Lac area is home to some great cheesemakers. One to check out is Leclerc Creamery. They produce award-winning goat cheese in nearby Malone. You are definitely going to want to go to learn about and, of course, taste some of their cheese. You can take a self-guided tour and see the cheese making in action through a large viewing window that peers into the factory floor. They also have a great on-site store that's stocked with all of their products and a cafe that incorporates the cheese into delicious sandwiches and salads. Make sure that you stop on Saturday, February 14th for free baby goat petting. And as if that wasn't motivation enough, some of the goats are going to be dressed up as Sturgeon and Cupid to celebrate the dual holidays.
Love that.
Another activity to add to your itinerary is the Thelma Sadolf Center for the Arts. Peter already mentioned them, but they are right in the heart of downtown Fond du Lac. And when you swing by Friday or Saturday while you're in town for the festival, not only can you check out the galleries of artwork that have these amazing paintings, sculptures, photography, and mixed media from both emerging artists and established artists, they also have some fun events connected to the festival. They're doing face painting for kids, and they have a drop-in workshop where you can glaze a ceramic sturgeon ornament, which will be such a fun keepsake to remember the weekend.
And what are some places around the Fond du Lac area that people could get a hot meal after a day out on the ice or after enjoying the festival?
Two that you should consider are Jim and Linda's Lakeview Supper Club and Wentz on the Lake. These supper clubs are on the southeast and southwest side of Lake Winnebago, but they also both serve as registration stations for anglers to record their catches. So not only can you show up for some great food, you can also see the massive fish in person. Jim and Linda's has that total supper club vibe. They serve classic and comforting food like prime rib and seafood. And then Wentz on the Lake is really well known for their fish fry, especially the perch. For another dining option, you can consider Cellar District. This is in downtown Fond du Lac, and the menu features American fusion dishes with globally influenced flavors. You can enjoy apps like truffle curds or Korean pork nachos. And for entrees, they have a range of tasty options like Mexican street tacos, blueberry apple sea bass, and butternut squash ravioli. And don't forget about breakfast. The Sweet and Salty Pig takes their breakfast menu very seriously. This is a Fond du Lac restaurant that serves most of its celebrated breakfast and brunch dishes all day long. And as the name suggests, the Sweet and Salty Pig has a range of options from both those savory breakfast-style egg rolls to their ever-popular Eggs Benedict to sweet banana bread waffles.
Okay, for both of you, what is something that visitors to the Sturgeon Spectacular should not miss?
Yeah, I think if you have an opportunity to kiss a sturgeon during opening weekend of sturgeon spearing, you have to do it. that people swear that it will bring you a year of good luck. So some of those places that were mentioned, Jim and Linda's Wentz on the Lake, they have great locations where you can see the sturgeon coming in right off the lake and get an opportunity to see them up close, see how truly unique they are, and give them a smooch because if it'll help you bring good luck, I think it's worth it.
And do you have to catch the sturgeon to give it a kiss, or is that open for anybody?
You might want to ask permission of the person that harvested that fish, but they're pretty accommodating when it comes to that sort of thing.
Okay, good to know. And Amanda?
Well, wow. I mean, I was going to suggest getting a chance to see the fish up close, but I had no idea, Peter, that was the tradition too, the how close you should get. So I think that gives everybody some new motivation. But I mean, we talked about what a unique species lake sturgeon is. They're prehistoric. They date back 200 million years. They look so unique. So definitely get a chance to go check one out. I mean, and how unique it is that the Lake Winnebago system is one of just 2 locations where sturgeon can be harvested by spear. It's a unique, unexpected tradition. Such a great way to go make some memories this winter.
All right. Well, Amanda and Peter, thank you both so much for joining me for Wandering Wisconsin.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Amanda Weibel is the Communications Officer for Travel Wisconsin. Peter Wilkie is Executive Director of Fond du Lac Festivals. They both spoke with Lake Effect's Becky Mortensen for our series, Wandering Wisconsin. You can find more conversations like this one at WUWM.com or by downloading the Wandering Wisconsin podcast.
Bubbler Talk, quenching Milwaukee's thirst for knowledge.
I'm WUWM's Emily Files. Lisa Lilligren appreciates the details. She looks around and notices them. That's what happened when she started working in downtown Milwaukee. She was spending time in the Plankinton building on Wisconsin Avenue. It used to be part of the Grand Avenue Mall. Lisa noticed a 4-leaf clover design repeated hundreds of times on the inside and outside of the building.
It's in the railings, it's in the stone, it's in, I think it's called the cornerstones where the elevators are. It is everywhere. And so I'm just curious, what's behind it?
To try to answer that question, we have to go back more than 100 years when this building was called the Plankinton Arcade. It's named after John Plankinton, who made his fortune in meatpacking. In 1867, he built a grand hotel in downtown Milwaukee. But in 1916, the hotel was torn down to make way for a 2-story indoor shopping mall, the Plankinton Arcade. Julia Griffith is the program director for Historic Milwaukee. She says the Plankinton Arcade had it all. More than 100 shops and an amusements parlor in the basement.
And so it would have had kind of everything, bowling alleys. They had a huge barber shop. They had like a red room. Actually, Liberace played piano when he was a teen. He'd like ditch school and come over here. So pool, hall, you name it.
Julia is also an architectural historian, so of course she too has noticed the clover design throughout the Plankinton building.
In architecture terms, we'd actually call it a quatrefoil. So 4 is the French word cat, 4, and foil is the French word for leaf. So 4-leaf clover.
She says it's a pretty common shape in architecture. The architects of the Plankinton Arcade were Chicago-based Halliburd and Roche. They were inspired by 15th century Gothic Italian architecture.
The goal of the building was to build an indoor shopping mall, and so they drew inspiration from the arcade style of architecture, which was very prominent in most of Europe. We see examples of it all over, but particularly from Italian versions.
Julia pulls out a picture of Italy's oldest shopping arcade in Milan, built in the late 1800s. Like the Plankinton Arcade, it has a glass roof and a central rotunda. It's also decorated with a version of the quatrefoil or 4-leaf clover.
I would posit having no ability to interview Hollywood or Roche, for they are both deceased, that they saw this motif, or somebody saw this motif and thought, I like that. We should do something similar.
She says the quatrefoil symbolizes a lot of things: the 4 seasons, eternity, and of course, good fortune. Bubbler Talk question asker Lisa Lilligren chimes in.
I thought this was going to be an Irish conversation. And so I thought 4-leaf clover was going to recognize our Irish heritage in some way, so this was very interesting to me.
It's not an Irish influence, but an Italian one that inspired the designers of this ornate building. Since its heyday in the early 1900s, the Plankinton Arcade has fallen in and out of use. It's housed various organizations and businesses, including WUWM in the early 2000s. In the last decade, the building's owners turned unused shops into apartments, which are called the Plankinton Clover Apartments, named after that 4-leaf design. The building still has a couple shops, including TJ Maxx. Throughout these changes, a lot of the original architecture has remained intact, along with a statue of John Plankinton in the atrium. Lisa hopes more people will stop by.
Maybe this conversation will help bring people back and for them to remember just what a special, unique building this is in Milwaukee.
Send us your Bubbler Talk question and join us Thursday, February 26th at Oak Brewing for Bubbler Talk Trivia. Details are at WUWM.com.
And Bubbler Talk wraps up today's show. If you've missed any of Lake Effect this week, you can find all of our conversations at WUWM.com. If you'd like to take the show on the go, simply download the Lake Effect podcast wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. Tomorrow, we'll bring you our top stories from the week with our Best of Lake Effect Friday show. But for today, thank you so much for joining us right here on listener-supported 89.7 WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR.